We recently revamped our order management system on the Predator. In this video, we're going to dive into it a little bit more so you guys can understand how it works and how you can configure your orders exactly how you want them. For this video, we're sticking to the sync stop management, and all this means is regardless of how many profit targets you have set, all of your stops, break evens, trail stops, they're all going to be set at the same level and they're going to move at the exact same time. This is all part of the new updates and it's made to make setting everything up a lot easier, especially for those just starting out with the Predator. But for those that want a different stop management for each separate target, you can just unselect the sync stop management and watch this video up here. This is going to lead you to the old way of setting up your orders, and this video will explain that in much more detail. But in order to not make things too confusing, for this video, we are sticking to the sync stop management system. Before we get started, it's important to note that any order entered with the Predator, whether that's a manual order or one of your auto entry orders, they are all going to be managed by the same order management system. Whatever we select here is going to translate to our orders within the Predator. And for the time being, only orders entered within the Predator can be managed by the Predator. All right, first I'm just going to give a quick description of what each one of these options do. And then we're going to actually run through some examples, and that way you guys can get a better idea of how everything works. So to start off with, like I said, we're using the sync stop management. This needs to be selected. For your next option, you have your order entry type. And this is just how you want to enter an order. Whether you want a market order entry, or you can select a limit order as well. Again, we're going to come back in these in just a minute. I just want to give a quick example of each one. Next, you have your order quantity calculate. This is just for your position size. So whether you want to set your own custom position size or you want the Predator to automatically calculate your position size based on your entry and your stop distance. This is going to take your risk per trade and automatically calculate that for you. Again, we'll come back to that. Then we have our stop management. So where we want our initial stop loss. This is where we define that. If you want to set a break even, any trail stops, this is where we make that happen. And the last part of our order management section is our profit targets. With the Predator, you can have up to 3 separate profit targets on the exact same entry. You can add on to your position later on, but as an initial entry, we have up to 3 targets. And this is where you define that. If you just want more targets, you can just select the number that you want. All right, for our first example, we're going to go over the order entry type. By default, this comes with a market order. This just means that any order entered with the Predator is going to submit a market order. And for all of these examples, I'm just using the manual entry buttons just to try and keep this video short and to the point. But again, all orders entered with the Predator are going to be managed by the same system. So a market order just means whatever price your entry is triggered at, it's just going to submit a market order. This is the most popular way to enter a trade because it guarantees you actually enter the trade. But now let's go back into the properties and we're going to change this to a limit order. Now, as you can guess, a limit order submits a limit order. But now we have a few extra options. We have a limit order offset, and what this does is it just offsets your limit order from the point it's submitted. So for an example, an offset of 0 is just going to submit a limit order at the current price. If we do an offset of, let's say, -5, it's just going to submit it at the current price minus 5 ticks if you're going long. If you're going short, it's going to be above the price. So I'll show an example of both. Here we enter long. We can see the current price is at 20,953.25. We subtract the 5 tick offset. It's at 20,952. Now let's do a short order just as an example. So now for the short order, it's going to be 5 ticks above the current price. Next up is your cancel limit entry after X bars. This just means it's going to cancel your limit order in the case it doesn't get a fill. So after these many bars pass, that's when it cancels. So let me change this to 2. I'm going to change our offset to something, I don't know, -70. Let me run this on the chart and we'll see how it cancels the order. All right, so I'm going to enter the trade. We can see our limit order is down here, and we need to wait until 2 bars close before this order cancels. So just to mark it, this is the bar we entered on. So there's 1. So we entered on this bar. Once the second bar closed, then it cancels our limit order automatically. We can resubmit it again if we want. So that's all it is just a way to cancel your limit order. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about, we're actually going to skip the order quantity calculate just for a minute because this is also going to be tied into your profit targets. So it'll make a little bit more sense down the road. For now, I want to start off with the stop loss type. And all this does is it just defines where we set our initial stop as soon as we enter a trade with the Predator. So with the Predator, we have a few different options. We have the high-low, which is going to set your stop at the bottom of the previous candles when you're going long, or the top of the previous candles when you're going short. And you also have an offset to go along with that. So an offset of 0 is going to set your stop at that low or that high. So an offset of 0 just means when we enter a trade, it's going to set your stop at that low of the previous candles when we're going long. When we're going short, it's going to be at the high of the previous candles. Now, let's add a little bit of offset. So let's do maybe a 2-tick offset. So with a 2-tick offset, it's again going to set it at the low of that previous bar, but it's going to add another 2 ticks on top of that. And same thing when we're going short, it's going to be at the high plus 2 more ticks. Next option is your traditional tick stop. When it comes to ticks, it's very straightforward. It's just going to set your stop based on the tick distance defined. So we're just going to enter. So in this example, we have 20,952.75 minus 30 ticks. That's $7.50. That seems to check out. So that's all it is. It's just from your entry price. It's that tick distance. Next up, we have our ATR stop. And all this is going to do is it's going to take your current ATR price. And anytime you have any sort of ATR option, you can also define the period up here. But for this, it's just going to take the current ATR and it's going to multiply it by this number. And similar to ticks is it's just going to take this value and create your stop order from your average entry price. So let's do a 2 times ATR, just as a quick example. Order submitted. And when we submit our order, it's going to take whatever the ATR price was and it's going to multiply it by 2. And that is where it's going to set our stop. And for the last initial stop order, we have the super trend stop. And this is going to utilize our super trend indicator. We just have to have it plotted on the chart for this to work. But it's just going to help you set your stop at whatever the super trend price is. But one thing to keep in mind is if you're entering long, in order for this to work, the green super trend must be below the price. And if you're entering short, the red super trend must be above the price. Let's load it on the chart and see an example. So here we can see the current super trend is bearish. It is red. It is above our price. So if we enter short, it's going to submit your stop right on that super trend level. In the case that we're on the wrong side, don't worry too much. It has a safety built in. So it's just going to protect you a little bit and submit your order a few ticks away or based on the previous candle's low. That way, you're not trying to submit an order above the price, which would cause an error and cause any strategy to blow up. So that's all it is. It's just a way to set your stop at the super trend. And of course, similar to the high-low stop, you can also offset your stop from that initial super trend. All right, now that we have our initial stop set, let's go over our profit targets. Like I mentioned earlier, we have up to 3 separate profit targets that we can set at the exact same time. In order to activate a new initial profit target, we have to check the little box next to each target. By default, target 1 will always be applied. And guys, make sure you have at least one target set, or else the predator is not going to enter any trades. You need at least one. Once we select our profit target, we have to define the profit target type. Our first option from the dropdown is take profit. And just like the tick stop, this is again going to be very similar. It's just going to set a tick based profit target. So a 25 tick profit target is just going to submit your profit target at 25 ticks from the average fill. For the next example, we have the RR profit. That is just your risk to reward profit target. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the distance between your stop and your initial entry, and it's going to multiply it by this number. And that is the distance that your profit target is going to be from your entry. So as an example, a value of 1 is going to give you a 1-to-1 risk to reward. I'm going to add a profit target number 2. And I'm going to change this to the RR profit as well with a value of 2. Next, I'm going to add target number 3. And again, RR profit with a value of 3. And this is just going to help us get a visual of how this profit target type works. So I'm going to enter long. And from here, we have our entry, stops, and profit targets. And I'm just going to use this modified fib tool just so we can see the distances between our profit targets. So for our first profit target, we took the distance between our entry and our stop, multiplied it by 1, and that gives us a 1-to-1 risk to reward. Our second profit target was a 2-to-1 risk to reward, and our third profit target, a 3-to-1 risk to reward. So it's just the same distance between your entry and your stop, multiplied by whatever number you have set in there. This is going to help you ensure you always have a consistent profit target if you have a stop that changes sizes every single time. And that's all the risk to reward profit target is. Let's move on to our ATR. And this is very similar to our ATR stop loss. It's going to basically take those same numbers and add it as a profit target. So let's just do a couple. We'll do 2, and I'm just going to unselect that third profit target. Or you know what? I'm going to keep it just to show you can mix and match your profit target types. If you want to have 1 tick, 1 ATR, 1 risk to reward, anything that you want for those profit targets, you can do. So just going to enter. So again, you have your 1.5 times ATR, 2 times ATR, and then your 3-to-1 risk to reward that we left in there as an example. All right, now that we have our initial stop, initial profit targets, let's talk about our break even. By default, you have a break even manual. All this means is when you load the predator and you enter a trade, you're going to have a button that you can push at any time, and it's going to move your stop up to that break even level. And yes, you can offset it from here. If you want to go a little bit more into profit, you can do a positive value. If you want to give yourself a little bit more room but sacrifice some of that profit, you would do a negative value. But at the same time, you can also adjust this directly from the chart trader panel. So you don't actually have to do anything in here. That's just how it comes by default. But what about if you want to automatically move your stop up to that break-even level as your strategy is progressing into profit? All you have to do is select the break-even type. And this is going to work similar to the profit targets that we just went over. But all this does is it just sets a profit threshold. So once this level is reached, your stop is automatically going to move up to that break-even level. So I'm going to just show one example. I don't want to make this video too long, but for this example, I'm going to select break-even tick with a profit trigger of 20. This just means once I enter a trade and my strategy is 20 ticks into profit, my stop is going to automatically move up. And for this, I'm just going to set my profit target a little farther away so we don't get stopped out right away.
Order submitted.
All right, so I'm just in a trade. I'm going to play it. And once we are 20 ticks into profit, so something about this level, my stop should automatically move up to the break even. So there we go. We just hit this level and you saw our stop automatically moved up on its own. So that's all it is. And like I said, you also have that manual option available at any time. So as long as you are into profit, you're able to push it at any time. And if you want to adjust the offset, you can do that directly from the chart trader panel as well. So negative offset will just take you below the profit. So nice and simple. That's how your break even works. The next section is going to be about our trail stops. And this is pretty self-explanatory. It's just going to help us trail our stop as the price progresses into profit. So with the Predator, we have a bunch of different trail stop options. And I don't want to make this video too long. I have another video that goes over each one of these in a lot more detail, but I'm just going to give a general breakdown because they all work very similar. So for this example, I'm just doing the high-low trail. Again, watch this video that goes over each one individually, but it's going to be a very similar setup as the automatic break even. But with your trail stop, you're going to have the trail stop type, and then you're going to have the distance and must travel before it automatically starts trailing on its own. By default, it's now going to start trailing immediately once it reaches one tick into profit. You can change this if you want to start trailing at a later time. And again, it's the same concept. You're just setting a profit threshold. Once the price reaches that threshold, your stop is automatically going to move up. And you have the choice. You can either trigger that trail stop immediately or wait until the bar closes above that threshold. So the choice is up to you with this option. But for this example, again, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to select my trail stop, and this is going to be applied to each one of your profit targets. So I'm just going to set up my profit targets again. And for my final third profit target, I get this asked quite a bit. What if I want to enter a trade, but I don't want to have a final profit target? I just want to keep trailing until I get stopped. Well, you just have to select that target anyways, but from the dropdown, you would select no profit. This just means it is going to have that final target, but it's not going to have a limit order attached to it. So we'll see how that looks. Let's load this on the chart, and I'm just going to enter my trade. So you will see down on your chart trader panel, once the trailing starts, it's going to highlight your button yellow. This just means it is currently active and it's going to start moving your stop up. So let me speed this up. So with the high-low, it's just going to trail the low of each new candle. So once this one closes, we'll see a new bar. We'll see a new stop. So there, the bar closed. It automatically moved our stop up. And now it's just our final profit target. We don't have a limit order set for that, so it's just going until we get stopped out. Now, if you want to stop trailing at any time, you can just unselect this, and it's not going to move your stop up anymore. So once this bar closes, you'll see the stop stays stationary. If you want to start trailing again, simply just click it and it's going to catch up to where it was. Now, on another note, if you want to change your trail stop style at any point, you can also go down to your chart trader panel and change that to whatever you like. Just keep in mind, some of the settings, it's best if you define them within the properties. Now, as an added bonus is we have the ability to trail any third-party indicator plot that is loaded on the chart. So as an example, I'm just going to load a simple, let's do a Keltner channel, keep it nice and easy. We're going to load that on the chart ahead of time. Again, we're going to enable the predator. So from here, we're just going to enter a trade. I'm going to move the stop down. And any indicator plot that is loaded on the chart before we enable the predator should show up in this little drop down box. So I'll just select the lower channel just as an example. And you can see our stop automatically attaches to that indicator. So if we speed this up, you'll see as the price moves up, so does our stop with the indicator plot. So that's all it is. It's just a way to give us even more options to trail our stops. All right, for the final section, we're coming back to our order quantity calculate. And this is just how we can define our position size. By default, we have a custom quantity, and this one is pretty straightforward. All it is just for each separate profit target, you can define the quantity for that specific target. So for an example, order quantity 1, that is going to be for your target 1. Order quantity 2, that is going to be for profit target number 2. Order quantity 3, we'll change this to a 5, but that is going to be for a profit target number 5. And let me just set a actual profit target so we can see how this looks. So when we enter a trade with a custom order, like I mentioned, all it is order quantity 1, that is going to be that first profit target. Order quantity 2, that is for your second profit target. And order quantity 3, that's the position size of 5, that is for your third profit target. One thing to keep in mind is any single target that you add, the minimum position size for that individual target is going to be 1. We cannot have a target with no position size. So just keep that in mind. If you're adding, let's say, 3 profit targets, the minimum position size you can have is 3. All right, let's go back into the properties, and now we're going to go over the automatic quantity. And all this does is it takes the distance between your initial entry and your initial stop. It applies a formula. So in the case you do get stopped out, you should only lose around this amount, your risk per trade. Big disclaimer here. I get this asked quite a bit. This is not a kill switch. Once you lose 250 in this example, it's not going to exit the trade. This is more or less an estimate. So you're always having a similar risk to reward. You're only going to lose around this amount. It's never going to be perfect. Sometimes you'll lose a little bit more. Sometimes you'll lose a little bit less. This is just designed to give you the best position size based on your initial entry and your initial stop. So as an example, here I'm going to keep this at 250. My max position size, if you're trading with, let's say, prop firm, or you just want to limit the number of contracts you can buy, you can do that here as well. So with a value of 10, your position size is never going to go past 10 contracts. Value of 30, again, it's never going to go past that 30 amount. So let me set these targets a little further away, and let's just add another target here. And you're going to see an allocate order number 1. All this does is once it calculates your total position size, it's going to allocate this percentage to the first order. So in this case, 50% of the order is going to go to order number 1. And then whatever's remaining will go to the remaining orders. So in this case, order number 2. Now, just to split it up a little bit more, I'm going to add a third profit target. Let me just change these around. So once we add a third profit target, you will see allocate order number 2. So again, all this means is for order number 1, we'll get 50% of the total position size. Order number 2 will get 30% of the total position size. Anything left over will go to order number 3. So let's just load this on the chart, see how that works. So here, I'm just going to enter a short position. In this case, our total position size was 12. That is what the formula determined was the best position size to only lose around $250. if we were to get stopped out. Now, our allocation order, number one, 50%. That is 50% of the total position size. So in this case, a value of 6 got placed to our first target. Then allocation order number two, 30%. We got a position size of 3. And I guess it determined that it was close enough where it just split this up between these profit targets. So 30% went to 2, and then whatever was remaining went to number 3. They just happen to be the same order quantity. So that's just how it splits it up. It's just based on the percentage of the total position size. So let's again play it and see if we get stopped out. So look at this one. All right, so here we got stopped out, and here is our P&L. Don't worry about this one. I had a trade from before from an earlier example. This one down here would be our actual P&L since we ran this strategy. So we lost a little bit more than that $250 mark. Like I said, it's not going to be exact all the time. This is not a kill switch, but it is going to be the best position size based on that risk amount. But I think that just about covers all of the order management. I'm going to cut the video here. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. Let me know on Discord. But as always, take care. Enjoy.